This one is again one of my favorites together with the next episode. So I will draw the two together in one episode since they belong together with this huge cliffhanger about Victoria. Nice touch bringing back the flash forward when we already got disappointed by giving us none to begin with. I know this one was cheap since we all know she cannot die, but in the finale, but nonetheless interesting. Since we got that conflict between Emily and David. And of course the big reveal at the end. But let's start with the beginning. Must be strange sleeping in the beach house again. For both David and Victoria. The last time they were here together they had planned to run away with their children. About Daniel, Emily and Louise. This connection was fun through it is kind of an insult to Emily. 'Cause she is far away from being that amount of crazy as Louise is showing in the following episodes. But I must admit I like the overall clues that Louise belongs to Team Emily. Spoiler alert. After all she is the one who helps Emily find Victoria. Anyway, I like this little scene with Daniel watching photographs of his wedding with Emily. Sure, her real identity makes him question everything he thought he knew about her. And I like that he is really some kind forgiving her for using him in her revenge game. I think knowing that she was not out to destroy his life but revenging her father's imprisonment and death might have been the trigger for him to say goodbye to his anger over Emily's deeds. What I really like about Daniel's reaction is that he goes straight to his mother and confronts her about it. 'Cause she is the one who could end all of David's sorrows with simply telling him the truth. And of course they are building up the threat that Daniel could be caught up again in the war between his mother and his former wife. So when he told Victoria he wants to find Emily first, I was thrilled how this confrontation would turn out. Since the last conversation at the police station in season 3 he was just throwing his wild accusations at her. About David talking to Jack. Finally he gets to the right address and Jack makes the only right move here by sending him to Emily. Though this one was a huge disappointment, they did make the best out of this luring tension between the two. Even after seeing this season more than 10 times I still feel thrilled watching this scene. I love how she speaks again for herself in the third person. Like she did with Jack after Fauxmanda's death. She is lying but also not, since everything she says is true. She just admits that she is the one she is talking about. I love her reaction to his lies. Like a child that was hit or a wounded Emily, she is turning away from him. And she is obviously having a hard time holding back her tears as her anger when they talk about Victoria. Though I can understand her disappointment about lying to her like to everyone else. I am surprised she really thought he would recognize her. I mean, he believes she is dead. How could he think if not anyone told him that she could be Amanda? About Victoria keeping up this false reality for David. Her attempts are getting more and more desperate. Now she is bribing those girls in the strip club to collaborate her story. And this rather quick excuse that she could not help Amanda because of Conrad. Why does he believe her and lets this go so fast? Even after Conrad learned about Charlotte being not his but David's daughter, he still cared for that girl. I know this is not a good comparison, but he obviously had a soft spot for that girl. And more than once he was talking about Amanda as a victim and showed some compassion for that little girl. Like in season 1 when he told Daniel the truth about the conspiracy. Victoria never talked like that about Amanda. Even after Fauxmanda's death she referred to her as a poor girl just to show the difference between her and the powerful Grayson family. So like I said multiple times, I do not think that Conrad would have kept her from helping Amanda or even tucking her in. In contrast, I think Conrad would have loved the idea having this little girl around and the chance to manipulate her into believing all the lies. Since she was that young, they could have easily made her believe, which was all over the news and proven in David's trial. Her father is a terrorist and like the Graysons she was a victim of David's lies. Michelle Banks just did brainwash her and she believed the conspiracy until Nolan came to her with her father's diaries. So the Graysons could have done the same thing, and since she would live under their roof she would have been grateful enough and not question what they told her. So telling David her hands were bound is a lie. In fact, she did the opposite thing. Instead of helping Amanda, or at least let her be, she arranged that they never saw each other again and made Amanda hate him for most of her childhood. I mean, if she were not locked up all those years, she surely would have visited him on a regular basis in prison. And then would have known firsthand about the conspiracy. About Louise's hallucinations. Spoiler alert, I was glad when they cleared this up later that all her crazy hallucinations and this pathological behavior came from her pills. Cause with this scene here they going all over the top with Louise's mental issues. Locking Margaux up, there was assault if not attempted murder. About Emily being trapped with Daniel. This scene is truly one of my favorites between the two. And not only in this season or because they finally talk things through. It is just funny how Emily is focused on getting her mission done, just ignoring the fact that Daniel is trapped with her. Pretty much like he asked her to before the lights got out. While he still wants to start an honest conversation. The cherry on top was how she is showing off her skills in getting out of complicated situations like this. Daniel is really impressed. About the two scenes with Victoria. The first one here with that woman who bought all that stuff from Grayson Manor was fun. She almost looks like a groupie sitting on Victoria's throne in that red rose dress Victoria wore at the press conference in season 2. The other scene when they show us why Victoria needs the necklace was not so fun. In fact, a bit inappropriate. I get that David tries to find answers and is tracing down everyone who was attached to Fauxmanda. So Victoria does the same and hopes to win this race to keep him on her side. But slapping that little girl and meeting her in that niche with a drink, was that really necessary? About Nolan meeting Louise for the first time. This scene was even more fun than Emily and Daniel trapped in the elevator. I love how she is talking about Daniel and how he is in bed and making jokes about his big ego. Just hilarious. And how she is cheering up Nolan. She is really such a sweet person. And I love seeing the two together. I really wished they would have become more than friends. I was always hoping for a spin-off with Nolan and Louise. They were my favorite couple this season besides Daniel and Margaux. Spoiler alert, Jack and Emily do not count for me because we just get to see them happy together in the finale. So you can hardly name them a couple this season. About Nolan buying the beach club. I do not know, it is the one where he met Patrick. Because Emily is talking about that he hates the beach club and bad memories on Patrick would be definitely a reason. Anyway, I just love this indoor location with all those nautical elements. The paintings of ships in sea storm that look like the ones from Turner. I am a real fan of his work. He is one of my favorite painters. And of course these giant ship models under glass. It's just a cool location and I was happy that we saw more of it the next couple of episodes. Cause as much as I love the idea Emily making Grayson Manor to her new home, I really hate the decorum. I just miss that cozy little beach house. By the way, I love that Louise inspired him to do this with her sentence, he can have everything he wants. Cause that is quite a good analyze of rich people. If you can buy it, you can have nearly everything. About Emily's reaction to the photos of Fauxmanda. This scene really hit me. Not only because Fauxmanda was one of my favorites and Emily was surely reacting to her loss as well, as to the shock that David had all these photos and possibly followed Fauxmanda around for all Emily knows so far. This and the next one when she is confronting her father really were the strongest performances of Emily in this season. Interesting that they are framing this with that storm. It is like in that night before he got arrested and Victoria gave little Amanda that look. We saw the lightings that night as well. So kudos to the writers again. Sometimes they have really great ideas. 'Cause this adds of course atmosphere to the scene and makes an emotional heightened moment even more thrilling. And they're combining more elements from the past to this scene with Victoria wearing the earrings David gave her as a gift. Maybe she kept them hidden with the necklace because they were worth a fortune, but it could also be out of nostalgia. About Victoria wearing red. I was noticing this in season 3. Victoria is wearing red often this season. First it was just an embroidery to her cardigan 2 episodes before I think. Then she was wearing a red dress in the episode before when David gave that interview. And now she is wearing a red sweater. Later she is wearing that famous red dress. So it is safe to say that every time Victoria is plotting something she is wearing red like Emily used to at her takedowns. About Daniel and Margaux breaking up. This little scene shows why I am rooting so much for these two. She has really class, cause the minute she gets that Daniel betrayed her with Louise she just goes and throws a glass of water into his face. That was maybe the best and most sovereign reaction to this I could imagine. About Emily crying and confronting David. This is one of the few scenes in which we see her almost totally breaking down. But I like the waves of emotions here. First she is totally devastated, but when we get to see her face in close-up you see her rage coming through. And she is right, she should be furious since David told nothing but lies since he came back. And instead of breaking with Victoria and call out her lies he seems to take right off where they left all those years ago. And the flashback with David's quote was just on point. Like the one with his gift for Victoria. They really make us see and feel this complicated love triangle between Victoria, David and his daughter. I like how Emily is almost throwing Victoria out and of all moments again disturbs an intimate moment between the two. And I absolutely love the fury and deception in her voice. She is totally breaking down while David is happy more than ever to see his daughter alive. So even if many hate the idea of bringing David back and are not okay with season 4, this scene and moment was worth it. I still love the moment when he sees the tattoo and immediately understands this woman is his daughter Amanda. And having Victoria almost die just sugar-coated this scene even more. The thing is David's reaction to all this. I know he loves Victoria and discovering Emily's true identity must have been a lot to cope with. But why it is so important to him to go with Victoria. She is in good hands and if she was in a critical condition they would have surely called him. So why not stay with Emily and talk this through? I guess because he fears what she will ask him and that he has no real good answers for his daughter. I must admit I was really identifying with Emily this season. Her devastation about him leaving without answering one single question of her. Like a coward he is just using this accident to get away from Emily and her nagging questions. And I really felt with Emily when she was left alone in the dark after the ambulance went away with Victoria and David. But you must admit this tension between Emily, David and Victoria is stuff for great drama. About Daniel and Margaux again. You can say what you want, Daniel might be a coward but he is persistent and not giving up on Margaux that quick. He going after her and this little fight was one of my favorite quotes and scenes from the whole show with the two. This is so raw and real. I really love what Christine Vaniss and Joshua Bowman are showing us this season. They are a really great team. About Nolan and Jack. This shows how Jack's new job as police officer can never work as long as he is friends with Emily and Nolan. This conversation was really funny though. About Louise's hallucinations again. Funny that her mother is always wearing the same color as Louise when she sees here. About Kate Black. This was suspicious from the start, but I thought she would only mean trouble for David and Emily because she was investigating Conrad's murder. Spoiler alert, it never occurred to me that she would become such a great threat. If you think about even a greater threat than her father, spoiler alert, Malcolm Black, who should be the big bad this season besides Victoria and Margaux. I must admit I like her character and how she is stirring up trouble for Jack from minute one. First she pisses off his partner Ben because he wanted to work with the feds and is obsessed with the case. But for obvious reasons, to get information about David from the source, she is choosing Jack. Spoiler alert too, when Kate and Jack get closer together, he and Emily are fighting about her and this leads to Jack's fatal decision. But in this episode she looks much more harmless. About Louise trying to seduce Daniel. Like Nolan, she is really bringing fun into this season. Another reason why the two get along so perfectly. They both share the same humor. And here is the hot shower scene I was talking about in one of my episode talks from season 3. And Daniel is really looking great this season. Even though I liked his vests from season 2 and the sweaters from season 3, his new casual business look really suits him. And he seems to be in top shape, but that was never a problem in any season, one assume. But I like how Louise is talking with him, cause besides her view on his mother, she is right. It was always my problem with Charlotte and Daniel that they were so fast with complaining about their hard life. But in fact it was nothing compared to Emily's life and those problem of people who are poor and have to fight every single day. Yes, the scandals around the Grayson family were tough on them, and their parents did not do them both a favor in throwing money on them to compensate the lack of love and attention. But if you think about Amanda's trauma and even Louise's backstory with her father and being institutionalized more than once, the Grayson family had it quite good. And having no money problems is something you can only fully appreciate if you were poor before. About Emily trying to talk to David. I really hate and love these scenes. First of all, this scene shows just how desperate Victoria is, trying to keep David at her side and punish Emily at the same time. I mean, how desperate can Victoria be to make all the nurses rush to her just because she has seen David talking to Emily? This stunt came surely out of fear because Emily is trying to make him see the truth about her. However, the most pressing questions Emily has is still not answered, and Victoria is very much selfish, letting him not talk for at least 5 minutes. Only out of fear losing David forever. Anyway, this charade could not last for much longer, so I was more devastated by their second conversation. Because in this brief encounter I still thought he might understand that Emily has changed because she was faced with that much trauma during her adolescence. I mean, he talked with Nolan when he was imprisoned and gave him the infinity box. He seemed to be very serious about Amanda setting up a fire and having to go to prison for a long time. So he was following her troubled life from prison. Okay, he does not know yet what Victoria did to her, but is it not enough that this is coming from his grown-up daughter, who had plenty time to research the Graysons and Victoria's involvement in his framing? Why, in Emily's words, is he taking Victoria's word over hers? Now he knows his daughter is alive, he has no real reason to stay glued to Victoria as his only anchor to the past. Now he has Amanda and the beach house, which is plenty connection to his past life. But very similar to Daniel, who was playing Emily's puppy dog in the first 2 seasons. David seems just as obsessed with Victoria as Emily. Only that he is truly loving her while Emily truly hates her. I mean, watch this look from Emily. If Sights could kill, Victoria would need no doctor anymore. Back to Emily and David. I knew this would be a tough conversation. Since both have changed that much and both cannot recognize each other. Emily always cherished her memory of this perfect dad and the innocent victim. While David surely has this pure innocent happy little child in mind. So both sides can only be deceived. But like Emily, I surely did not expect this reaction of David. Yes, Emily is spiting anything out on him, but should he really react that ungrateful? I mean, she suffered so much and sacrificed many things in her life for this revengender. It is also a bit imbalanced that he was happy when he met Charlotte and Victoria told him she was involved in clearing his name. But when Emily tells him what she did for him, it is not right. I know he said that in this heightened conversation, but why is he so hostile towards her? Is it a bad conscience because most of the bad stuff she was going through, especially as a child, was because of him? Or like Victoria said, is he ashamed and devastated to see what became out of his little girl because of him and what happened to them? And why is he still defending Victoria even though she did not told him about Amanda and he already was doubting her words? About Emily and Daniel again. I really like the scenes between the two this season. They are quite few but always meaningful. I was never a big fan of them as a pair cause all these lies Emily told him made it pretty clear from the start this could never work. But the growing some kind of friendship was nice. Spoiler alert, so I was really hit when he died that early this season. He joins the club with Nolan and Jack, who are the only people who can talk some sense into Emily when she is giving up. Since Jack is occupied with the FBI and Nolan enjoys his new friendship with Louise and the beach club, it is left to Daniel to give Emily a wake-up call here. Funny that she is leaving her own veranda while he stays. Talking about funny seeing Nolan together having fun with Louise and regretting it later because she is again someone unstable. The bad taste Charlotte has in her boyfriends Nolan shows with his friends. Besides Jack, who still seems to be the most normal and average person in Revenge. Nolan was friends with David Clarke, who obviously became some kind of a psychopath and killer. Then he became friends with his daughter Amanda, who is as dangerous and has at least some sociopathic tendencies. And after some times he became friends with Fauxmanda, who was in her worst times not that much better than Emily. Now there is Louise, who is the most harmless of these three women, but still has some serious mental issues. About Amanda saving David. Though the fighting was not that impressive, I was glad that David could see firsthand what his daughter is capable of. Because I never understood what he was telling her here. I get that he wants nothing more than protect her since she thought he already lost her and does not want to relive this pain. But he saw and heard what she was capable of. I mean, she tricked the FBI into believing that fellow Charlotte killed was the murder of Conrad to keep his father off the hook. And she fought a team of 3 men who wanted to kidnap David. So how much evidence does he need to see that Emily can not only protect herself very well but could be a help with Malcolm Black? Even though I love this scene especially because he finally calls her Amanda and says the magic words again. Oh, this made me to a teenager again who would love nothing more like to have that chance Emily has here. Be and talk with her father again, who she thought was dead. Anyway, there are still so many unanswered questions. Fauxmanda died 2 years ago in the middle of season 2. So what did he do all this time and where did he go? If he spent more than a year planning his revenge, he really wasted his time because killing Conrad and falling back into Victoria's arms. That is really not that impressive. Especially if he had that much time analyzing her and her behavior days before he got arrested. There must have been a change which he recognized later. Why else would he have been suspicious about her and asked her right away if he had anything to do with the conspiracy? And why the hell did he neither contact Nolan or Jack? They both could have told him what happened to Amanda and even send him to Emily. I know they had to find an explanation for his return, but why did they not make him flee after he heard about Conrad's demise? I mean, more than a year without trying to contact anyone and taking Conrad down for what he did. That is giving his lack of impulse control a really long time. Another thing that annoys me is how calm Emily is suddenly. I know her emotions are on a roller coaster right now. But why does she not insist more? After knowing how everything went down in the next few episodes, it was a grave mistake letting him take care of things. Are the writers keen to show that Emily becomes a little girl again, not only in the eyes of her father? 'Cause for 3 seasons we have watched her as a more than accomplished woman who can reach almost every goal she has. And now this is all gone only because her father says so. About Daniel and Victoria. I almost forgot about this scene, even though it is one of my favorites between the two. They fought much in season 1 and 3, but I think they never talked this openly. I like his analysis and that he finally sees his damage and problems may be partly Emily's fault because of what she did to him. But mostly it is because of his family and the deeds. Especially the motives and thinking behind the conspiracy. Spoiler alert. I love the letter to his father he reads out loud in that famous last episode of him. It really explains the Graysons and their worldview very well. Interesting is Victoria's reaction. I almost fell for her act. But when she is talking to David in a later episode, she tells him another story. So I think Daniel is right here. His mother is only afraid of losing him and ending up alone. So she tells everyone what she thinks they wanna hear to make them stay. Maybe after all those years she even does not know the truth anymore. Or maybe it is a mixture of reasons. Because she already made up a plan leaving Conrad with Daniel and living together with David and his daughter. By the way, Conrad's deeds made it even easier for her to leave him. She could have gone straight to the police with David. He could have maybe even gathered some evidence. And they could have taken Conrad down. While he was facing a huge trial, they could have built up a future together. In that devastated state Conrad was when he confessed to Victoria, she and David would have plenty of time to regroup. Aside from that, it is a nice vision that Daniel and Amanda would have grown up together. They could have been close like she and Jack. About Kate and Jack getting together. This was fast and I still wonder why he is not more suspicious. I mean, why should an FBI agent be interested in staying at the Hamptons longer than to close this case? If it is true how they depicted it in Criminal Minds, which is, besides the news about horrific crimes, the only source for me about the work of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. They mostly fly around through the whole United States when they are requested by the police. And they only stay as long till the case is closed. I mean, she barely knows him and should be suddenly fallen in love that hard to give her career a break. How big is his ego? I thought he spent long enough time with Emily to know the signs when something really suspicious takes place. About the end song. Again, this one is perfect for Emily and the Graysons. I am really jealous that they use all this great songs and lyrics in the last season. We had such few great songs in the seasons before. It started at the end of season 3 with Sharon Van Etten's You Know Me Well. And now this one with the perfect fitting title No Rest for the Wicked. By the way, I should have known at first watch that Emily was lying here since the black hoodie was back. But I have 2 major issues with that scene. First of all, it is again a non-white person who is criminalized. I think he is someone original from the Philippines or somewhere else from South Asia. Second, I still think this was a little too much how Emily is torturing this guy. I mean, she is really using her temper with him. We have never seen her that violent. When she fought like with Gordon Murphy in Season 1 or Nate Ryan in Season 2, it was always safe defense. Because both men wanted to kill her. And even that fight in Season 3 with Victoria's guy was merely self-defense since she walked into a trap and he ambushed her. But her violence was never a means to an end. I know she is that emotionally imbalanced because we are talking about her father. And like Nolan said, this ominous threat is now the only thing left that keeps them to be together as a reunited family. Still, I wish instead of resorting to violence she would have focused and followed a clear head. Maybe she could have avoided what was happening in the next couple of episodes.